So I thought I'd share three ideas about motivation. The first idea is that motivation has a lot to do with the influences on us rather than just our personalities. The second idea is that small changes to our motivation make big differences in terms of what we do and what we achieve. And the third idea is that we should be designing our influences so that we can achieve the actions and the outcomes that we want. And when we design our influences, we can actually forecast the effects of that. We can forecast how likely it is that something's going to happen. So the way that I have thought about motivation for a long time is that motivation has got three components. There's the reward, there's the task, and there's confidence. And broadly speaking, the greater the reward, the greater the motivation. If you get asked to do something and somebody increases the reward, if you ask me to run around a running track, for example, and you say there's going to be more money rather than less money, the more motivated, the more money you give me, the more reward you offer, in general, the more motivated I'm going to be. The second factor is the size of the task, because for a given reward, the greater the task, the less motivated I'm going to be. If you just keep on asking me to do more and more for the same level of reward, I'm eventually going to become less motivated. And the third component of motivation is confidence, and that means that in general, the less confident I become, even when you hold reward and task constant, the less motivated I become as well. If I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to do something, if I'm not sure that doing that thing will actually deliver a reward, then I'm likely to be less motivated to do it in the first place. So really what this means is that the first idea is that we can gradually replace this notion that motivation is all about us. It's about our personalities, it's about our desires, it's about our choices. We can gradually replace this notion with the idea that motivation is something that we have to design, something we have to create. And, you know, we can think about motivation sometimes in quite self-serving ways. I could pick something that I'm generally quite good at doing. I'm quite good at walking the dog, for example, and I could say, well, I'm good at walking the dog because I'm a disciplined person. I'm, you know, I care about animals. I'm organized. I'm structured, and I could kind of claim all of that as being a consequence of my own personal qualities. But likewise, you could say, well, I'm not terribly good at vacuuming, for example, and you could say, well, you could mount exactly the same argument. You know, I'm not good at vacuuming because I lack organization, I lack discipline, I lack the awareness of, you know, broader consequences of vacuuming a house. So really that personality-based argument breaks down in relation to motivation, because we tend to be very motivated to do some things and quite unmotivated to do others. And it's far more accurate and illuminating to think about motivation as a consequence of influences, and those influences being the size of the reward, the size of the task, and the size of confidence. But even reward, task, and confidence, they break down. They're different kinds of reward, different kinds of tasks, different kinds of confidence. So you can think about rewards in three ways. The first kind of reward is just pure fun. It's a pleasure reward. So when I walk the dog, I have fun walking the dog. I like watching the dog run around. I like bumping into people and chatting to people. And then there are other kinds of pleasure rewards, like games. When you play computer games, for example, they're very good at making sure that you have a score, that you progress, that you know exactly where you are, you can win and you can lose. So those are pleasure kinds of rewards that are very effective rewards. Another kind of reward is a meaning reward. And these are sometimes a little harder to access. But a meaning reward would be something like autonomy, that I choose to do something. When it comes to walking the dog, I've got quite a high level of autonomy. I walk the dog pretty much whenever I want. You know, it's not like the dog's choosing the time that it wants to walk. I have a sense of mastery, that I know the paths around you, I know where to go, I know how to teach the dog to respond to my whistle. And I know why I'm walking the dog. I know that the dog likes it, but I know that it's good for me as well. So, in terms of the meaning rewards for dog walking, they're quite high. If you take the meaning rewards of vacuuming a house, for example, they're probably quite different. How much autonomy do I really have when it comes to vacuuming a house? How much mastery do I really get? Do I really get a sense that I'm becoming good at vacuuming, or figuring out this whole vacuuming thing? And what is the purpose of vacuuming? If I'll vacuum this week or next week, how much difference does it really make? They're my meaning rewards for vacuuming are not really quite as high as they are for walking the dog. And finally, a different kind of reward is a relief reward. The reward is that something goes away. So there might be a sense of urgency that is relieved by the fact that you've done something. Maybe you haven't done your tax return, or you've got some paperwork in the office that you need to really attend to. You get this build-up of urgency. You may get a build-up of anxiety. When you actually get around to doing the thing, the reward is that you have a sense of relief, that urgency or that anxiety, or maybe even a guilt or someone nagging at you, that goes away. And those rewards are quite variable rewards, because you might do something, you might vacuum the house, and you're no longer being nagged, and you no longer have the sense of guilt that you haven't vacuumed, but then that reward just disappears, and it doesn't operate tomorrow. That's why you don't generally vacuum 2 days in a row. Whereas the meaning rewards are more stable. They're more intrinsic to the way that you see the world. The pleasure rewards are fairly variable. And when you think about how variable these rewards are, what motivates you is your immediate rewards. So if those meaning rewards are immediate and they're actually driving you out today, and they're not variable, it means that you're going to achieve something consistently. Whereas if you're relying on the pleasure rewards or the relief rewards, which vary more from day to day, maybe one day your friends just aren't around, or one day there's no particular sense of urgency or anxiety, then you don't have a strong reward to do something, and it's just not going to happen. So it's important to pick your rewards and select your rewards. The second concept, task, also has components to it. One form of task is setup, is support. So it's all the things that I have to do in order to make something happen. So, if I'm vacuuming the house, I've got to get the vacuum cleaner out, I've got to plug it into the wall, I've got to arrange the furniture, I've got to move the rugs, and there's a whole lot of setup that has to happen. If I want to walk the dog, I've got to, get all the dog walking paraphernalia, I've got to clean the dog afterwards, I've got to wash its feet and make sure that it's not muddy or whatever. Then there's the actual task, which is the job itself. And the actual task has got to do with things like effort, how hard is it, how long does it take, how much discomfort do I have to endure. And then the third element of task is the imagined task. And the imagined task is all those things that aren't really real, which become associated with the task. So there might be a sense that I feel that this job is bigger than what it actually is. Vacuuming the house, how long does it take really? Might only take 20 minutes, but it feels like this massive job. Or there may be some sort of mission creep going on, that I think, well, I've just got to vacuum the house, but then I've got to rearrange the furniture, and I've got to shake out the rugs, and I've got to, and then suddenly the mission creeps and it becomes bigger than what it originally was. And the third thing that I may have to deal with in terms of this imagined task is all the associated emotions, that I might be feeling a sense of resentment, or I might be feeling a sense of anger, I might be feeling the sense of despair associated with this task. And those imagined tasks are potentially unnecessary. So when it comes to strategically motivating myself, one of the things that I do want to do is manage those tasks as completely as possible. That I want to be as efficient as possible when it comes to the support tasks. I want to be as clear as possible when it comes to what is actually this task, and then I want to make sure that those imagined tasks don't get out of hand, that I'm not spending too much time dealing with something that is not as big as I think it is. And I want to be sure that these emotions are not cluttering what the task actually is. And then finally, there's confidence. And when it comes to managing confidence, there are three ways that I can do that. The first is I got to know what to do. When it comes to vacuuming the house, I've got to know exactly what it is that, I'm being asked to do here. I've got to be sure that I can actually deliver on that. And I've got to know that it's going to give me the outcome that I want. That when I vacuum the house, I'm going to end up with a clean house and happy housemates. So those are the three components of strategic motivation, and those are three ways of thinking about motivation.